Good morning and welcome to Wisconsin Wednesdays. My name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors, and we appreciate you joining us today on our educational webinar series. Continuing, we're going to discuss the basics of long-term care. We're joined by Diane and Annalise from your WREA staff, along with MJ Woodall, who is our leader up in the Wisconsin area. We'll do a couple of quick housekeeping details before we get started. We do record every one of these sessions. Takes us a couple of days to get it back to WREA, and they can put it out on their website where you can go out and look at it. If you want to follow up, have a good discussion with your family, something about this topic, feel free to do that or share it with your friends as well. You'll notice that all the participants, they're not on the screen like a typical Brady Bunch Zoom webinar. This is a listen-only opportunity. So what that means is if you've got a question or you want to make a comment, simply put it in your comment section up there, the chat section or the Q&A feature. And MJ and Diane and Annalise and I will monitor that. And we'll stop periodically along the way if there's a particular question that's important to the group. If not, it may be something we will we'll just answer to you individually and privately online that way as well. And then at the end of the conversation, because we've had a lot of great discussions in some of our webinars, we'll stop the recording. You can hold up your hand on the chat bar on the reactions piece, and you can ask a question that way. And what we'll do is we can unmute you. You can come on and ask the question. So it's a really good way to have interaction because we want to answer a lot of concerns that you may have about this. You'll also see down there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen a QR code. And we'll show you this several times throughout, but grab your smartphone if you've got it. All you've got to do is take your smartphone, open up your camera feature, and you can hover over that QR code. A little box will pop up, hit it with your finger, check some things you want to talk about, and MJ and her team can help you out with that. So we'll come back to that QR code in here in just a little bit and give you a chance to ask questions that way or seek more information on some of the topics we talk about. But we do want to go ahead and jump off and bring in Diane here, your executive director, to talk about all the things that are coming up at the WREA. Good morning, Diane. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. So excited to see you in a few weeks.
Yes, I know. Okay.
So tell me what's going on.
All right. Okay. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for being here this morning. A couple of things that are just right around the corner is our annual convention is at the end of this month. It is September 26th through the 28th, and we're going to be at the Ingleside Hotel in Pewaukee. We have a whole big lineup of great presentations that are going to be offered. John is going to be there to do a couple of them also. We will have all of our member benefit partners there. So you will see AMBA and some of the other ones that we have. We have fun that we're going to infuse into the convention. You're going to hear a lot, learn a lot. Since the elections are right around the corner, we have a big push on voting, especially for the 50+ population, which is a lot of us. So think about joining or coming to see the convention. If you haven't registered yet, you can go to our website, www.wrea.net, and right on the front homepage will be the link to register for the convention. So think about it. It's a great venue to be at the Ingleside, and it's really going to be a great convention this year. Also, I want you to, when you're on the WREA website, check out the events tab at the top. It'll give you our community calendar, all of the events that we have planned for the rest of this year and our new fiscal year starting in October. And you can register to attend as many as you want. If you want to sit in on some of our committee meetings, you can certainly do that and hear about what goes on in our committees. And then you might be interested in joining. So check that out. You'll see all the fireside chats on there, all the upcoming events that we have with John and everything that we have as of right now. So some exciting news, a lot of information on the website. So please check us out. So again, thank you for being here. And John, back to you.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to that. I know we're closing in on 100 people coming to the convention. So let's go ahead and get that number up there. It's a great way to introduce some of your friends maybe to WREA as well. And just real quickly, I want to show you this. This is a little bit of a teaser of a conversation that we'll be having at one of the convention breakout sessions. I want you to think, what's the correlation between your medications, your glasses, your vision, and your pets? And we're going to talk about that in our aging in place conversation. on one of the breakout sessions. So we're going to dive in deep in that way and help you learn more about ways that you can take care of your home and your environment and your finances to keep you living where you want to live. So look forward to being with you up there. Look forward to the cooler weather, but most importantly, look forward to just seeing everyone that we see online and see you in person. So looking forward to that. Again, my name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors. I live a little bit north of Houston with my wife, who is an elementary school teacher. My kids are all in adult and college age activities and stuff like that. And for the better part of my 30-year career, I have spent time in schools helping active educators understand what their retirement years are like. And so I appreciate the opportunity to share with you, WREA members, to talk about several things, but I want to introduce my co-host for today. And she is MJ Woodall, and she is up there in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin. So MJ, you want to share a little bit about yourself and your family and how you support WREA members?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, John. So yes, this is a picture of my family. So believe it or not, 3 of the 4 people that you see there, not the dog, but 3 of the 4 people that you see there actually work to help support all of you as members and potential members of WREA. And so we help with your benefits. That in the picture is my youngest son, John, my husband, myself, and then my oldest son, Chris. And both my boys decided to follow my footsteps and do what I'm doing. So we get to work alongside each other, which is super cool. The cute picture there of the little puppy is our dog, Bucky, who we basically brought into our life during the unfortunate pandemic time frame. So we call him a COVID puppy, but he literally was 2 years old in June of this year. And the picture that you see there is the day we picked him up in August, on August 9th, or excuse me, August 8th. And then 2 years later, that's a recent picture of him. What my team gets to do is we get to work alongside of WREA and help support all of you, again, working to help you understand what benefits you have in your association. Not just benefits from an aspect of benefits that you can take part in, but why the benefits are so important. Your membership in your association is literally the least expensive cost that you are going to have to protect your most prized asset, your biggest asset that you have, biggest benefit that you have, which is your pension. And WREA is what is the group that basically they are the ones that protect that pension for you. And so my team gets to help you with all of those things, and including discounts and other benefits and all that other stuff. But again, your biggest asset that you have, your biggest benefit that you have is protected by your WREA membership, excuse me, and it happens to be the least expensive way to be able to protect that biggest benefit for yourself. John, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, MJ. And I'm going to have MJ, not only is she going to monitor the chat for your questions and things like that you may have, I'm going to have her share a little bit as we get into our conversation a little bit deeper about an example that one of our WREA members experienced and how our topic of today could have helped her out as well. So we'll jump in and do that. But just a quick reminder, and MJ hit on this, talking about your WREA membership being such a small cost to protect your biggest asset. That's what WREA does on your behalf. They're a pension watchdog. And I've been involved with several associations across the country, and Diane will trumpet this. Wisconsin has some of the best pension results, best pension strength, best pension plan of many states across the country. And it's because of the efforts of WREA and members like you who are joining us today, protecting that pension, preserving those benefits or access to those health benefits, and keeping you connected to your retirement community, your local community, not only through webinars like this, but through the conventions, through local meetings and things like that. Very important to continue to do that to keep our strength. And then also partnering with folks like us at AMBA here to offer exclusive discounts, benefits, and fun things like that. And just a quick reminder, there are some advantages, and MJ and her sons have found this as you get out there and talk with members like you. There are some advantages of having that connection between WREA and AMBA. They can fill those gaps that when you left the school that you didn't take with you, that maybe you either had that plan and it was no longer eligible for COBRA when you left, but for whatever reason, you didn't take it with you, you can get those benefits back. They're portable. As the leaves start to fall and that cold weather starts to come in, I know many WREA members head south for the winter, come down to Texas, Arizona, and Florida. These benefits are portable. No network tie-in. You can take them wherever you want to for whatever reason. But a lot of the benefit that you get is that you can extend your WREA membership and those benefits to your family members who may not have been covered. Maybe it's a son or daughter that's aged out of some benefits that you had, or maybe you have parents that are still living and you're responsible for their care. You can take care of these benefits as well. But today we're going to kind of talk about this whole concept of home health care insurance, long-term care. We've got some goals that we want to do here. We want to kind of demystify some of these myths and talk about some of the facts surrounding care, discuss the need or the lack of need for long-term care protection, discuss some of the traditional components of long-term care, and then kind of go through some other endorsed options out there. But before we do that, I kind of want to get a feel for who is on our conversation today. So I'm going to launch a quick poll here. We've got about 20 or so of you joining us today. Just let us know if you've got some sort of a long-term care plan. That way, whenever we're doing this class, we can say, hey, here's what you want to look out for. Here's some components, things like that. So even if you're not sure, that's okay to put that in there, because we meet a lot of times, and MJ does with the WREA members, they don't know exactly what they have. They may have taken something from school, but they weren't quite clear, that type of thing. So we'll take just a few more of you out there, answer those questions, give you a few more seconds. And we'll wrap it up in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Share these results out there. So we've got a pretty good 50-50 split, or almost 60-40. I applaud those of you who have some type of a plan. We're going to walk through some of the components of a traditional plan and help you understand what those are. And for those of you that don't have a plan right now, that's okay too, because we're going to show you what you want to look out for. Not only that, but also how WREA and AMA can help you as well. So we'll stop that poll and we'll move forward here. And this is why I have this conversation. MJ and I both have had very similar situations with our parents. This was July of 2020, was with my father in a nursing home over in Austin, Texas, right around his 80th birthday. This was the last time that he knew who I was whenever I came to visit him. He had been in a nursing home for about 18 months due to complications due to vascular dementia. And you may have known people with Alzheimer's, have family members with Alzheimer's. Dementia works totally differently. It robbed this man, who was a collegiate athlete, was my greatest hero, of his ability to be nice and sweet. He was the most gentle man I ever knew, but the last several months of his life, not so much. And this is when he last knew who I was. He passed away later that October. And so because of what he did 20 plus years before that in taking out a long-term care plan, my stepmother, my brother, and I were able to take care of him in a manner that dignified him, that gave us peace of mind he was being taken care of. But it also made sure that my stepmother, who still worked while he was needed care, was still working, that she was able to stay in her home and not have to worry financially about protecting and taking care of all those assets that they had built up over their years together. So I am very thankful to my father, not only for the years that he provided for me, but because he took the foresight to provide for himself in a long-term care need. And some of the things we'll talk about today, I'll share some personal experiences that I had. MJ can jump in and share too with her family situation as well. This is why we have these webinars, so that you can ask questions. How does this work? How would these things happen? Things like that. Because really, when it comes down to it, what my father did 20 plus years ago was protect his family's future. It made sure that my stepmother could continue to live in the condition that she wanted to live in. It made sure that he was taken care of in a dignified manner. My brother and I lived about 3 hours away. We didn't have to worry that he was always going to be taken care of well. And whenever you prepare for yourself, even though whenever he took out a plan, he didn't think he needed it. Like I said, he was healthy as a horse, played church basketball up until his mid-60s, and so never had an issue with health. He saw it as an opportunity, and didn't want to be a burden, but more importantly, he wanted to have control over how he lived his life. And so we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, I love giving pop quizzes to retired teachers because they gave it to MJ and I every time we were in school. So grab a pen and paper and answer true or false to these 6 different questions. Long-term disability and long-term care, the same thing. True or false? Very few people ever need extended long-term care, and only people over 50 need long-term care. True or false? Nursing home confinement is the only long-term care option there is. Medicare pays for everything, and even though I'm retired or close to retirement, I should just wait till long after I'm retired. So answer true or false to all of those questions there. And I will tell you, if you wrote down anything other than false, then you got those questions wrong. Every one of these is false. And we're going to go through and look at the myths, but more importantly, we're going to give you the facts behind why long-term care and planning for your home health, no matter what it is so important. Because the fact is that over 70% of us, once we reach the age 65 and over, are going to need extended care for some reason. It may not be long-term like my father was for dementia, or for someone for Alzheimer's. It may be as a result of a fall. So you don't know what that need is going to be, but a significant amount of individuals, once they reach age 65, are going to need extended care. So for those of you, about the 43% of you who have a long-term care plan, I'm going to kind of break down for you the historical components of a long-term care plan, show you how a plan is built usually. For those of you who don't have one, this will be kind of a good introduction into that. I'm going to take it in the form of a good hamburger. When you're building a good hamburger, you've got to have several good components in there. And there are several components of long-term care that make up a hamburger. Without them, it would just be a patty melt, or it would be just a ground beef steak, something like that. But a hamburger is a different component here. And so you have your buns that start out that make a hamburger. And in a long-term care plan, you have qualifications that would trigger the benefits in a plan, much like an auto insurance. Once you have an accident, your insurance is triggered. Well, in a long-term care plan, once you lose 1, 2, 3, usually 2 to 3 activities of daily living, bathing, toiletering, being able to wipe your backside, feeding yourself, transferring, moving out of a restroom into a wheelchair, something like that. Once you lose the ability, 2 or 3 of those of activities of daily living, that will trigger a policy. Or on the top side of that bun is some type of cognitive impairment. So think something to the effect of Alzheimer's or dementia like my father, because there are some people that have Alzheimer's that can do all of those activities of daily living. And the early components or early period of my father's dementia, he could do all of his activities of daily living. He just was a flight risk, meaning he could wander off in the middle of the night, or my stepmother would wake up and find him becoming an electrician at 2 o'clock in the morning. And he had no formal training in electrician work, but those type of things. So you've got your buns, which are your components that make up a long-term care policy that trigger the benefits, activities of daily living or cognitive impairment. Then you have what's the meat, which is a daily benefit amount, or some policies have a pool of money. So your policy, for the 43% of you that have a policy, may have something that says you get up to $300 a day, or you get $200 a day exclusively, or you have a pool of money that draws from that pool of money for your daily care. And then you have a length of coverage. In the example of my father's situation, he had $200 a day up to, or he had lifetime coverage. Some plans will have 3 years, some plans will have 5 years, some even have 10 years. He had a lifetime coverage. So as long as he was alive, his plan was going to pay out $200 a day towards his care. When you have that pool of money, it will say you have this amount of money. Once you exhaust that pool, there's no more money left. So look at your plans. MJ and her team can review your plan. I highly encourage you to do that, because of all of the condiments, so to speak, that can come on your hamburger. There's an elimination period. An elimination period is the amount of time that you are responsible to pay for the nursing home care before your long-term care plan kicks in. Think of this as a storm deductible. You have a hailstorm that rolls through up there, and you have to pay the first $1,000 out of your pocket before your roof can be replaced. This is the elimination period. Most plans, it's 60 to 90 days. I have seen some that have been 180 days. So you could be responsible for the first 6 months of your care in a nursing facility or at home before the plan starts to pay. So just be aware of that, because that can be very costly. Then you come in here with location of coverage. Most plans, again, I say most plans, will cover you whether you are at home and receiving skilled nursing care, or whether you are in a nursing home facility and receiving skilled nursing care there. What some plans, though, won't cover is an assisted living, which is kind of an in-between care. Some plans will or will not cover whether you have a non-skilled person come and cook and clean for you. So location of coverage is so important, because you want to be in control of where you get your care. And then you have two other ones called inflation protection and non-skilled services. When my father took out his plan 20 plus years ago, he put on there an inflation protection rider, which said automatically every 3 years it went up a certain percent, so that $200 a day benefit, whenever he needed it 18 years later, was now worth $345, something to that effect. You have to be really careful with these inflation protection riders. These are important because when you may have taken out the plan, if you didn't have it, now that $100 a day wouldn't get you as good of care. But with inflation protection, some companies would offer you a provision that says, we're going to send you a letter every couple of years that gives you an opportunity to raise your coverage without any underwriting, no new medical qualifications or anything like that. All you have to do is sign here. Of course, the price goes up a little bit, but if you decline that letter twice, you may be able to no longer get any type of inflation protection. So it's really important that you understand. A lot of it, people that I meet, I'm sure that MJ and her staff have met, they have a long-term care plan. It's buried in the bottom of a desk somewhere, got a lot of dust on it, don't know what's in there. They've got a stack of letters they weren't very familiar with. If you're like my mother, I go over to see her a couple of times each week. She's got a pile of letters. What does this mean? And we go through those things. That inflation protection opportunity, you don't want to lose that. So let's go ahead and make sure we take care of what you've got in there. The other is non-skilled services. This is not very common on old long-term care policies, but I think it's so important. What that does is it gives you the ability to pay for someone to come over, do some cooking, some light housework, things like that, that when you have long-term care needs, you may not want to go to a nursing home. May want to stay at home. You just need someone to come check in on you 2 or 3 times a week, that type of thing. So you've got to really be watchful over that. That's what's out there. That's some of the components of a traditional plan. As we go through here, we're going to break them down a little bit more, talk about them. But again, I highly encourage you, those of you that have a plan, let's review it to make sure you've got all these components and how they work together. Okay, so let's get into what is extended care. People have this misconception that you have to go to a nursing home to receive extended care, and it has to be for the rest of your life. Care can be provided in your home. It can be in a nursing home or a long-term care facility. My father started out in a traditional nursing home and then moved to a true memory care type facility that had specialized care that for his needs, that type of thing. Or there's this kind of hybrid care in assisted living facilities. These are becoming more and more popular because it allows you to have greater independence. But if you need care or your need for care progresses, you can still stay there and have that care provided to you. So again, the proper type of planning can allow you for that. There are many different variations that are out there. Some are centered around church or fraternal organizations. There's a long-term care community down here in Central Texas that is exclusively for retired teachers. So there are different types of places that you can go. Most people, though, want to be taken care of in their home. This is where they grew up. This is where they had their family. They're emotionally attached to it. They have a spouse that's there. They want to receive care in their home. So we want to make sure that you can plan for that. And so there are a wide variety of ways that people pay for extended care. Unfortunately, most people will pull it out of their own personal savings or assets. And MJ kind of addressed this earlier. You're a member of WREA because you're fighting to protect your pension and the continued growth of your pension. If you need long-term care, you can't call the pension board and say, hey, double up my pension payment. So you've got to pull some of this money from different sources, personal sources, or they'll receive assistance from family and friends. And what that means is that maybe a son or daughter has to quit their job to come take care of you, or you've got a group of friends that come around, that type of thing. Some people entered into the Medicaid program. We're going to talk briefly about Medicaid in just a moment. Or others will have an extended care coverage plan, like my father, that provides for all, if not all, or quite a bit, if not all, of your needs for an extended care perspective and the coordination of benefits and things of that nature. So again, everybody pays that has this. It's just a matter of who does the paying and what manner in which you pay for it. And you don't know what the future holds. I mean, we all hope that we live for a long time and we pass away in our sleep and never have to need this. My father, again, was the healthiest man that I ever knew, but he's had a couple of minor strokes in his early 60s, continued to work, and then had a series of major strokes and surgery after that were all vascular dementia related. Whenever I would go visit him in his first facility right outside of Austin, I noticed that there were people there that were younger than me. And when I went to visit him originally, I was in my early 50s. And I would ask some of the attendants there what happened. And it was auto accidents. It was traumatic brain injuries from falls, things like that. People that were in their 40s and 50s that were in a long-term facility there. And so as we age, you don't know what's going to happen, but we generally find out we're not able to do things like we could for ourselves. So look at your family history. Think about what's going on in your family, but also preparing for those what ifs in life can make a difference for you as well. But some of the common myths that we see a lot of times is, especially for those who are not yet on Medicare, is that health insurance covers long-term care services. They think that whatever they've got through the state, whatever they chose through their spouse's place of employment, that type of thing will cover long-term care services. Some think that Medicare covers long-term care costs or covers all of their long-term care costs. And both of those things are not true. We're going to show you that in just a moment. Medicare, neither Medicare nor health insurance, private health insurance, is designed for long-term care. It's designed for recovering and then to get you back on your feet where you can take care of yourself all the time. When it becomes a chronic situation that's not going to improve itself, that's where general health insurance and Medicare do not provide for those costs. Some people think, well, Medicare and Medicaid is the same thing. I will tell you it's vastly different. I'm going to explore a little bit of that in just a moment. Medicaid is really a place of last resort that what I find most teachers do not qualify for because they have a pension plan. And then people think, well, I'm too young to buy. You're never too young to buy from a perspective that things happen, just like I shared with you, that are not within our control. Where you get your services provided, to me, is the most crucial point. It was positioned to me a long time ago, and this was when I had a conversation with my father when he first purchased his plan, was, why doesn't make sense to me. You work all of your life very hard to provide for your family, to prepare for your retirement years, that whenever you need care, you don't have a choice in where your care is provided. With a good plan, you have control. You can get your care provided for you in your home, in your community setting. Again, there are adult daycare facilities, there are church facilities, things like that allow you to continue to have interaction with people. There's assisted living facility that allows you to go in and purchase or rent your apartment and have all the fun activities, the meals, all that kind of stuff, and the entertainment. And then as you need more care, it's provided to you, or then it's a nursing home like my father experienced the last couple of years of his life. So it gives you control. It gives you 100% control of how you spend your money, how your care is provided for you, the quality, the location, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. And it keeps you connected to what matters the most. And if a good long-term care plan can keep you out of a nursing home and keep you taken care of at home, that's the best of all worlds, because that's where most people want to be taken care of. Let's look at the cost real briefly. We have a couple of providers that provide us with some numbers about cost. And so these are some national averages. I'm going to show you a little bit here in Wisconsin in just a second. A home health aide is about $25 an hour to come to your house. This is a couple of years ago. It's gone up just a little bit, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. An assisted living facility where you have one bedroom, single occupancy is about $6,000 a month. A nursing home semi-private is a little over $108,000 a year for a semi-private room. For a private room, it's about $123,000 a year on national average. That's the national average. In Wisconsin, it is quite a bit more. Okay. You see these numbers here. I kind of tried to go with some different population centers, some more remote, more north, that type of thing. But you can see here, it's anywhere from $5,300 a month for a home health aide up to $6,000 in Milwaukee. Assisted living facilities can range pretty widely as well. But once you get into the nursing home, semi-private in a private room, it gets very, very costly. MJ and I have been doing this webinar for about a year now in Wisconsin, not a year yet, going on, it'll be a year next month in Wisconsin. And so I went back to some old slides and looked at the numbers when we were right in the peak of COVID, and then compared it to the most recent numbers out here. I was blown away, and you see these red numbers. Inflation has really taken hold in Milwaukee and Eau Claire when it comes to getting your care. And that's a couple of reasons why. First and foremost, when COVID hit, you saw nursing homes locked down. You couldn't go in. We had challenges with my father. We could only see him a few times a month, one person at a time, all that kind of stuff like that. What I came to realize was that most of these nursing homes, they share staff among other care facilities. And what that means is that they were having people that were going back and forth that could no longer do that because they couldn't be exposed one place or the other. Well, that caused a shortage of staff and caused the cost to go up that way. And so now you see a significant increase in the cost of compliance for COVID regulations and other things, that nursing home facility costs are going up. Not sure what's happening in Madison with assisted living. It did go down a little bit, but this just gives you an indication of what the cost can be. I would encourage you to write down that website at the bottom, not the whole thing at the end, but go to genworth.com, GENWORTH.com. You can put in your zip code, your city. If you're outside of Milwaukee or outside of Wisconsin, you can put it for any state, anywhere in the country. It will tell you what the average costs are. And you can see what these look like in the area that you're considering, for any type of care. But again, I've seen this, unfortunately, across the country, quite a bit of costs going up. I tell you what's interesting, though, was assisted living facilities in most of the country are going down because during COVID, families said, we don't want mom and dad there. We want them to come live with us. And so they were taking them out. So there was a decrease in cost in a lot of those assisted living facilities. But overall, as you can see here in Wisconsin, it's going up quite a bit and it's quite expensive. For my dad, it was about $6,000 a month for a semi-private room in Austin, which was a good care facility. It wasn't the Taj Mahal by any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't inexpensive either. So who uses long-term care? Mutual of Omaha is the endorsed provider by WREA, and they give us stats every year that say, this is who uses it, here's the most reasons that use it, that type of thing. And they tell us the average person is someone who goes on claim is 78 years of age. And overwhelmingly, more women go on claim than men do. And this is typically because the woman will stay at home with her husband, taking care of him while he needs that long-term care. And then once he passes away, she's worn out and she has to go to a facility because there's no one to take care of her. Top 3 reasons for care: dementia, heart disease, and arthritis. Arthritis really surprised me on that one. So you can see this is kind of a typical look at the overall picture of who uses care. Once we get into long-term care 201, then I'm going to show you some more breakdown, talk about it a little bit more in depth, and explain it in greater detail for you. So again, we talked about who pays and how you pay. I want to kind of break this down just a little bit more and talk about Medicare, Medicaid, and that as well. Some of you have saved and have a nest egg built up, that your emergency fund. when you have that emergency fund, and it could be in tax deferred assets like your 403B, something like that, and you have to have long-term care, those funds may not be available when you want them to, meaning that you have to sell some assets, you have to liquidate some stocks that trigger income taxes. And if you've got any money in stocks right now, the past year has not been good to those. So you don't have an opportunity to build that funds back up. So you're selling them at a loss, for lack of a better term. Can't get the earnings back. Sometimes that's a challenge. We see this all throughout the Midwest and down here in Texas as well. You've got families that have some family land. Could be a farm, could be an orchard, could be, crops, whatever it is, but they got some family land. And sometimes the need to take care of mom and dad has to trigger that family land sale that would have been used for, to pass down to the grandkids, things like that, to the kids to keep in the family. On the flip side, some say, well, I'll just rely on Medicaid. Medicaid is truly, truly a last resort program for people with limited assets. It requires you to spend down all of your assets before you even apply or qualify. And oftentimes there's a 5-year look back period. So if you say, hey, we're going to hide all of grandma's assets, and the brothers and sisters and in our names, Medicaid can go back and look 5 years and say, did you do this long enough in advance to do this, to hide it? For many retired educators, they've got a pension plan. You don't want to sign your pension plan back over to the state. You want to control that. And then we've seen, even after you pass away, the state will seek reimbursement from your estate for the benefits that they've paid out. So Medicaid is really not truly the last resort. But what about Medicare? Medicare has some limited care that they will provide, but it is very limited and very defined, and every year that definition shrinks. So let me go through this just to be clear on what Medicare does and doesn't cover. Let's take it, for example, I'm going to have MJ share in just a moment. I have a WREA member that the first ice storm comes in, slips and falls and breaks a hip, and has to go to a hospital for a hip replacement surgery. So she spends at least 3 nights in the hospital, has a hip replacement surgery, and now needs skilled nursing care to help get her back on her feet, able to dress herself, transfer herself, things like that. After you leave the hospital for a 3-night hospital stay, write that number down, 3, because it's very important in a moment. Medicare will pay the total cost of your skilled nursing care for the first 20 days. So the day 1 you're discharged and you go to a rehabilitation facility and they're working with you on your stretching exercises and getting you back where you can feed yourself, go to the restroom yourself, all that kind of stuff. Medicare pays the first 20 days, boom, no problem. If you still need care after that, you're responsible for a coinsurance clause, a coinsurance payment. It was $185 last year. It's up to $193 a day now that you're responsible for that continued skilled care. After 100 days, Medicare stops paying at that point. Doesn't matter if you can afford to pay or not, Medicare quits paying. You're 100% responsible for this if you still need that skilled care. So it's important to understand where Medicare pays and where Medicare doesn't pay. But what Medicare has been doing in the background is something what I think is a little more insidious. So remember, I asked you to write down 3-day hospital stay. Look at that number 3. I'm going to show you how Medicare has changed the rules, so to speak, those different things. Medicare now, using the rule number 3, the day number 3, that's for somebody who stays as an inpatient in the hospital 3 nights as an inpatient stay. If you were in observation status, you could still stay 3 nights, but if you're in observation status, Medicare considers you an outpatient and therefore will not pay for any of that skilled nursing care after the fact. Now, you could have that slip and fall and break your hip, stay 3 nights in the hospital, but if the procedures that you receive do not qualify as Medicare overnight inpatient stay procedures, and you're only in observation status, there's none of that skilled nursing care after the fact. When you're discharged, you're responsible for 100% of that situation. So again, Medicare changes their billing codes, for lack of a better term, for procedures every year. And they classify more and more procedures that used to be inpatient care as outpatient care. It has zero impact on the type of care you receive in the hospital. I mean, you're still going to get the same quality of care in the hospital. What it does change is what Medicare pays for you after you're discharged. And that's where that money and that cost responsibility relies upon you now, depending upon that status. And so that's how Medicare saves money. That's how they cut costs, by simply changing billing codes over, and then they're not responsible for any care after the fact. And so that could be a challenge, but there are some solutions for this situation. Some of these could be long-term care policies that supplement your out-of-pocket expenses. They help protect your assets that are out there, but more importantly, they keep you connected to things that matter the most. So MJ, I want you to unmute here and tell us about one of your clients, a WREA member, that had that slip and fall, and how her situation was treated and what she could have done maybe differently.
All right. Thanks, John. I'm actually going to tell two stories. Believe it or not, both of these ladies, two separate occasions, they don't even know each other. Both of them had slipped and fallen at church. The first one had a long-term care plan in place, right? It had a 90-day elimination period. And what that means is you have to eliminate the first 90 days, basically self-pay for the first 90 days before your plan picks up on day 91. Well, she had this long-term care plan in place, forgot about the 90-day elimination period, went into a nursing home. She was not hospitalized, 3 overnight stays in the hospital. So Medicare did not pick up any of those first days at all. And that cost of care was $336 a day. When you do the math, that cost was $10,080 per month that she had to pay. Multiply that times 3, that's well over $30,000 before her long-term care plan finally picked up on day 91 to pay day 91, 92, and day 93. So her plan paid her like $800, but it cost her over $30,000 for those first 90 days. Now, it doesn't mean long-term care is not good. It's very good. It's just that those are, and that's an example of where there's gaps in coverage. And we have some benefits that can offset those 90-day elimination periods. The other situation was a lady who also fell down at her church recently. And the last time we did this session, she was in the process of filing the claim and everything. She fell at her church. She had to have home care. And she thought it was going to be 3 weeks of home care. At the time that we were doing this meeting, that's what it was. Turned out it was 1 week of home care, but then she had to go into a facility and get some additional care. Long story short, she has a home care plan with us, and we were able to help her with that claim to be able to offset way more than what that cost of care was for that week. The beautiful thing about that particular plan, and she received the check, probably it's like at least 2 weeks ago now. The beautiful thing about that plan is the entire amount of benefit that she wanted to get per week, that particular plan paid the entire thing to her, whether her insurance paid or didn't pay, which of course they didn't pay for everything, or regardless of what that cost was. So if her cost was only $400, and in her situation, her weekly benefit was $900, she received a check for $900 from this carrier to be able to utilize for that week and any other expenses that she'd have, including any other things that maybe other plans wouldn't help pay for.
Great. So I don't want the takeaway to be don't go to church because you'll fall. I don't want that to be
Correct.
I don't want that to be your takeaway, but those are situations that many members find themselves in, whether you have a plan or not. The devil's in the details, for lack of a better term, knowing what those elimination periods, things like that. We had a great question come in. I'm going to have MJ share that question and answer here in just a moment when we get to the Q&A section, because I think it kind of gives some of those things. But MJ touched on the stay-at-home benefits. This is where we find that most people, they don't want to go to a nursing home. Again, my stepmother could no longer take care of him. He was no longer safe at home. We had to make that move. But the stay-at-home benefits of a good long-term care plan can help you with those household tasks, those personal tasks like bathing and dressing. You know, they are provided by a visiting nurse or a home health aide. Some are skilled, some are non-skilled. But my favorite stay-at-home benefits are the benefits that allow you to have home modifications made. If we can widen a door, put in a ramp, put some pull bars in, if those things can happen to keep you at home, that's a great policy. That's a great plan so that you can stay in the comfort and familiar surroundings of where you have that way, of where you're used to being. So a good long-term care plan can do that. As MJ mentioned, you know, it may pay more than what your medical insurance pays or Medicare pays. You can use that money to go towards those modifications in your home as well. So there's a lot of good benefits that come along with that. You have your choice. You can simply select to get a lump sum of cash right off the bat when you lose some of those activities of daily living, no matter how long that takes to be. You know, some can be a percentage, some can be reimbursement. In my father's case, what they did was once they got into, if he got into facility and the clerk there at the nursing home set it up with a long-term care plan, doctors got it all squared away. It was a very simple process. They just simply said, it's going to be this much a month. So the insurance company would cut a check to the nursing home every month, just simply boom, boom, boom for the actual cost. My stepmother had nothing to worry about it at all. So again, took care of that right off the bat that way. One thing I want to encourage you is find out about what your plan covers now for those of you who have a plan. If you don't have a plan, it's best to look earlier before you do so. What we find is once you reach 75 or over, it's about a 50-50 chance that you can even qualify for a plan. The good news is WREA endorses several different types of plans. Some have tighter restrictions than others. Some are much more loose and easy to get with very minimal questions out there. And the cost does go up if you wait. Don't worry about these numbers specifically because it's based on a single age, a certain year old. The longer you wait, the more expensive it can be. So avoid the cost of waiting. But there are other options. This is the biggest thing we want to point out here. You can select the amount of benefits you want, a weekly amount, daily amount. You can do something to wipe out that elimination period if you have a plan already so that you don't have to worry about $1. Because as I mentioned, the hardest dollar to spend is the dollar that you first have to get, that you first have to find out that's out there. Length of coverage, location of coverage, come back for 201. We're going to talk about length of coverage quite a bit in there because you'd be surprised at how long, depending upon the condition, the average person needs any type of extended care. And then non-skilled care. That is such a biggie that you want to be taking care of somebody that you're familiar with and comfortable with. So MJ, you want to answer that question? And then we'll open that up. So share that question and then we'll go from there.
Wonderful. Thanks, John. So the question was asked, if you have a Medigap plan with home health care, do you need the home health care provision of a long-term care plan? And really what that Medigap plan has that has some home health care is exactly what John had indicated earlier on the one screen, where it talked about that if you have care that's needed, right, what that can look like. Medicare is going to pay for eligible home care services like intermittent skilled nursing. So think of like somebody coming in to do physical therapy, occupational therapy, things like that. But it does not, and that's with doctor's orders, okay? It does not, Medicare does not pay for the 24 hours around the clock care. So if you want somebody to come in and help, dispense medications, you want somebody to do cooking, cleaning, those types of things, maybe some extra bathing, it's not going to pay for all of those types of things. And so while there is some coverage in your healthcare for home healthcare, it is not giving you that full coverage. And every year, Medicare has made cuts in Medicare. Over the last 10 years, there's been a total of $716 billion worth of cuts in Medicare, and that is projected to continue on. So what that means is they've cut things like home health care services, facility care services, and we'll cover more of that, I know, when we get into the next session as well. So the easy answer is, do you still need something? I would highly recommend reviewing that to see what you do have. And then are there gaps that you have, so that we can look at that and figure out what works best for you.
Thank you, MJ. And then really want to stress that term skilled versus non-skilled care. Once you no longer need skilled care, meaning your condition is improved, which we hope it gets there, or your condition becomes chronic, meaning that you're not going to improve. Once it becomes non-skilled, Medicare stops at that point. It's not designed to cover just continuing care, as MJ talked about. And we had another question that popped in from Deb, which is a great question. Once you've reached your 70s, are you even eligible for these plans anymore? So MJ, what's the answer to that?
That's a great question. So long-term care, fabulous to have, right? Us women. So I'm just looking at the screen of who I can see right now. Diane, Annalise, myself, and then there's John, right? John's cost of care is going to be less when he wants to get that care than it would be for somebody, for a female at the same age as John, right? So when I look at the screen, Diane, Annalise, and I are going to pay more for the same benefit level of care. Not when we go to the facility, I'm saying same cost of care from a plan perspective. So when you look at that, number one, it costs women more for traditional long-term care. When you are in your 70s, it is a little bit more expensive for traditional long-term care. However, because we know that this has been a concern, your association, the Wisconsin Retired Educators Association, along with AMBA, has worked on behalf with a company that actually offers up care that doesn't look at the difference between male and female. The price ends up being the same, and the rates are a lot less than if you were to go to get traditional long-term care. It is a recovery care benefit. So that is one benefit that you can look at. And then there's a home care plus benefit that gives you home care as well. What's nice about these plans is they actually have lower costs per month than a traditional long-term care plan might have. There's payment that you can get starting on day 1 instead of day 90 or day 180. So those elimination periods are down to 0 versus 90 or 180 days or more. There's just a lot of other benefits. So somebody that's in their 70s, we've been able to help individuals get these plans. You have to be in that plan. You have to get that plan as long as you get it by your 85th birthday. You have the ability to get the coverage. I would not have you wait that long. And the reason I say that is because, like anything else, you have to qualify, right? And that's something we can help you with. But definitely somebody that's in their 70s, we work with individuals that are, all different points and ages, but a lot of people are in their 70s getting these plans.
Great question, Deb, because there is a misconception out there that once you reach a certain age, you're not eligible. There are age cutoffs for different plans. There are medical conditions for different plans. With my family history of Alzheimer's or dementia, it's a little bit harder, even though I'm in my mid 50s. So, different things are different for different people. So I'm going to stop recording right now.